Welcome. The purpose of this video is to show you how to use our scheduler or how to schedule items to happen at a future date. I'm going to start by going to my batch management menu, that's V as in Victor, and then number 2, batch scheduling. Now the scheduler is a calendar. It allows you to schedule items to happen on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or completely random basis. Whatever schedule that you'd like to use or whatever time you'd like to have something run. So let me describe to you the screen that you're seeing first, and then I'll go on to showing you how to schedule something. In the upper left-hand corner, you've got a box that's going to tell you whether your batch is active or inactive. In SBC speak, active means it's on and it's running, and things that are scheduled will run as the time comes up on your calendar. Inactive allows you to either add things without making mistakes, or it's turned off for some purpose. Your scheduler is only going to be turned off really if someone is maintaining it and wants to make sure that they don't run something by accident. So if your scheduler is inactive and you don't feel that it should be, call SBC and we can help you out there. You'll notice that at the top it says that my scheduling batch is number 6. Now in other places in SBC you can have multiple batches that do the same process. For example, I can have multiple print batches so that one store isn't interrupting another store and so on. Your scheduler, unless you know differently, there's only one scheduler per an entire system. It doesn't matter how many stores that you have. So when we go in and we assign a scheduler batch, there's really one. It's set up in the background, and then when you come into the system, it should default you to the appropriate batch number. The record ID is simply a listing of the lines of information that's been added to your scheduler. So it's a random number assigned to this job, and we use that number when we want to delete or edit the records that are already in the scheduler. The date is the next scheduled date for your job. The time is the next time that it will run. Notice that there's one that's going to run in just a couple minutes. The description is the description of what the job is. The source batch is where the job was created. So the job that I'm going to create today is your day end print. And so what I do first is I go out into SBC and I collect all of the information that's going to run when I run my daily print. So I create all of those in a single batch, in this case in batch number 5. That's my V1 batch. And so that's where it was created, that's why it's called the source, and that's where the job instructions live. The source library is the name of that library job that I created. It can have one item in there, it can have 1,000 items in there, it doesn't matter. It's just a job that will run on some type of schedule. The destination batch is where I want to run it, and the only reason that you would have a different source versus destination is if you have a lot of things going on and you want the ability to spread them out over a number of different V1 batches. So you'll notice that my Activate V1, its source is 5 and its destination is 5. That's going to be pretty typical. My backups happened to be created in batch 21 and they're running through batch 2. None of this really matters to the user, except for this gives us an opportunity to know where to go if something didn't run. So that's why those show up on the screen. Okay, I'm going to add something to the scheduler. Now because I'm going to do this, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to deactivate the batch because I don't want, especially if I'm running something like an end of year, I don't want to accidentally put in the wrong calendar day and have 20 end of years run. So I'm going to deactivate the batch, add the new jobs, and then activate it again. So at the bottom of your screen, on the far right hand side, you're going to see a button that says deactivate. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to deactivate my batch. Real quick, my buttons across the bottom, F1 and F2 lets me look at different pages of my scheduler if I happen to have more items than just those that fit in the single page. F8 shows me a calendar. I'm going to go back. F9 allows me to alter any of these. So if I click on the F9, it's going to ask me for the record ID that I'd like to enter to alter. I'm going to hit my enter key and it'll go back to my main screen. F10 allows me to add a new record, which I'm going to show you that in a second. Activate and deactivate are basically a light switch. Do I want it on or do I want it off? B allows me to show multiple batches if I have them. And then reschedule allows me to change the timing of a schedule. Perhaps my computer was turned off overnight because of a power outage, and instead of me running everything, I want to just reschedule everything to run in the future. That's what that button does there. R to refresh is a simple refresh of the screen in case I've made any adjustments and I want to see what my screen looks like. Control D, delete, allows me to delete a job from my screen. Control P, print, allows me to simply print what's on the screen, and then escape is to exit. And as always, your help button is over here in yellow. So I'm going to add a new item. I'm going to add my daily print job. So I'm going to click on the add. Do I want to add a new sched record? That's what we call the table. You say yes. First thing is, when is the next time that you'd like this to run? So today happens to be Halloween, 10/31. I want this to run every night at 9:45, and I'll show you in a minute why I want it to run then. So I'm going to put that the next scheduled time is this evening at 9:45 p.m. So I'm going to type in the date. Remember, I have to type in the year first, 10/31. I want it to run at 9:45 p.m., but remember SBC uses military time, so that's 21:45. I'm going to leave the description alone because I'm actually going to be pulling that from the V1 batch. You can, if you'd like to, enter a description right here, but as I said, I'm going to use that from the V1 saved library job description. Do I need this to expire? Perhaps you want a job to run a couple of times and then you want to stop it from running, and you don't want to have to remember to go into the system to turn it off. So if you type in an expiration date, then your job will run on whatever schedule that it's supposed to until that expiration date, and then it will fall off the screen and it'll be no longer scheduled to run. You can always force it to run again in the future, but this will expire this particular occurrence of that report. Since I have no expiration, this is my daily print, I want it to happen every day, I'm going to hit my Enter key to bypass the expiration date. Now, if you recall back to what we were talking about, source batch and destination batch, I've sent all of my jobs into my V1 batch number 5. So I'm going to type in a 5 here and press my Enter key, and that's the source of where my batch job lives, the instructions for what I'm running. I happen to call it DP. You'll find that that's very common, daily print, so I'm going to type in DP. And notice that when I did that, my daily, my description was populated with the text that I had added when I was saving this job in V1 batch 5. You can always overwrite that, like I said. And then the destination batch number is which batch do you want it to run through. Because I have a small system that I'm working on right now, there's not much else scheduled. I'm simply going to put that the source and the destination are the same. Scheduling information. From this point on, it's asking you when you want it to run when it's scheduled. So if I want it to run in the year 2016, I would put 16. If I want it to run on in the month of October, I would put a 10. And if I want it to run only on the 31st, I would type in a 3-1. But then that is only going to run one time. It's never going to run again. So what I want to do in the scheduling info is for the year, do you have a specific year that you want to run it in, or do you want to run it always? If this is a job that's going to run always until you physically go into the system and turn it off, I'm going to put asterisks here, and that means I want it to run every year. This is my day end print. I want it to run every day, every month, and then I want it to run every day. I don't have a specific day I want to run it on. It then asks me for hour and minute. Because I want this to run at a specific time every day, I'm going to fill in these two fields. 21 means 9 p.m. and 45 means 45 minutes after the hour. So this is going to run every day of the year at 9:45 p.m. Okay, Run flags. Which months do I want to run this in? Since I'm going to use the asterisks over here on the left in the scheduling info, I need to tell it if there are any months that I don't want it to run. Now, I want this to run every day, so yes, I want it to run January, February, March, April, and so on. So I'll put a yes in each of those fields. And then, is there a specific day of the week that I don't want this to run? Let's say that I'm not open on Sundays. I don't need paper printing out of my printer, wasting my ink on Sundays when I have no business. So I'm going to put an N here, and that means that this is going to run Monday night at 9:45, Tuesday night at 9:45, Wednesday night, and so on through Saturday, but it is not going to run on Sunday at 9:45 for me. Active hours. There are times when I have a job that's going to run every 5 or 10 minutes. This tends to be those that activate batches or that run jobs if I'm receiving electronic invoices and I want to process those. Those kind of reasons will allow me to schedule something to run every 5 or 10 minutes. If my business isn't open between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. the next day, there's no reason for my scheduler to be running something every 5 minutes. So these active hours allow me to cut down the amount of time that these jobs are running. Once I hit my stop active hour, in my example 5 p.m., it's going to schedule the next time for it to run at 7 a.m. the next morning. So my scheduler isn't just running, doing nothing all night. So I'm going to press my enter key to enter through those. And your increments. Do I want this to run every month, every day, every hour, every minute? I can force the number in here, and typically it's a 1. And it will run every month instead of running every day. In my case, I want it to run every day, and because of the information I've populated in the screen, the system knows how to fill this out already. So all I'm going to do is hit my enter key and enter through those 4, and it's going to say, oh, I see from the information that you said that this is going to run on a daily basis, so I'm going to populate the increment with a 1. Once my job runs at 21:45 on one day, it's going to reschedule itself to run the very next day. My exception groups I'm going to ignore. This is programming that has to do with how you run this for certain store setups, and we don't need this information. So I'm just going to press my enter key through to the bottom of the screen, and then I'm going to click on the update button. Once I click on the update button, my record has been created, and I can hit the home key, and now notice that I have a daily print that's going to run tonight, Halloween night, at 21:45, out of batch 5, my daily print, and my destination is batch 5. Now, remember, I left my batch inactive just in case I scheduled this wrong. I didn't want to print out a bunch of paper by accident. Now that I can see that it's correct, I'm going to hit my A to activate, verify activate yes, and we're off and running. Now, I'm going to show you what happens when I run this. So in the background at 9:45 when this job goes to run, what's going to happen is that my system in my V1 batch 5 is going to go into the background, and my instructions tell it to pull up a job called daily print. This job is going to come into my report batch 5, and then it's going to run and it's going to print to my printer number 1. So that's what the scheduler does, is it goes and grabs the instructions for this report, it throws it into this V1 batch, and because at 9:45 my batch will be active, it will run these 3 items. They'll be sitting on my printer ready for my employees tomorrow. If you have any additional questions on how to schedule something in the scheduler, please call SBC at 800-829-4722. or email us at sbctraining@autolog.com. Thank you so much.